The sirens wail. Fire in the engine room. A dire situation unfolds as a Pegasus missile tears through the hull, destroying the ship's door controls.
Rover, do you copy?
The repair team, caught in the blast while en route to the engine room, faces grave danger. With the fire raging, a tough call is made.
Divert power to the O2.
A race against time begins to save the crew. You hope the fire runs out of oxygen before you do. This scene is just one of many examples of emergent storytelling you'll experience in FTL, an intergalactic, real-time indie roguelike. Starting life as an open-ended prototype by two-man developer Subset Games, FTL jumped to success with a Kickstarter campaign and was released in September 2012, and further enhanced with a free expansion 2 years later. Since then, there have been no substantial updates. There are apparently no plans for a sequel. Even so, FTL continues to captivate me and countless others with its meticulous combat, intricate multi-layered strategy, and enduring pixel art aesthetic. In this video essay, we delve into the reasons behind FTL's lasting appeal. The first ship you unlock in FTL is the Kestrel. It's a jack of all trades, a burst laser and missile combination, a fully human crew, and no additional systems beyond the basics. In FTL, your ship has a number of systems and subsystems, each requiring an allocation of power from your reactor. The basic systems every ship has are shields, engines, med bay, oxygen, weapon control, piloting, sensors, and the door system. Both the reactor and the individual systems can be upgraded with scrap, the in-universe currency, but upgraded systems will require more power, so you'll always be operating on a deficit. Therefore, tactical decisions will need to be made. Should you upgrade the shields early on, or focus on destroying your enemy with overwhelming firepower? Initially, your FTL crew consists solely of humans, versatile and dependable, yet lacking any unique abilities. However, the universe of FTL is teeming with diverse and fascinating life forms. Among them are the Engi, biomechanical beings adept in engineering and repairs, though they're notably less effective in combat. The Mantis, resembling anthropomorphic, agile insects, excel in close quarters combat, but are pretty bad with spanners. Then there are the Zoltan, space Buddhist, somewhat fragile entities who can boost your reactor's power, and intriguingly, create an energy burst upon their demise. Lastly, the Rockmen, robust and impervious to fire. They bring resilience to your crew, but don't expect them to compete in the 100 meters anytime soon. Your crew can man stations, which boost performance, repair damage to the hull, and can repel boarders. Over time, your crew will develop skills, and these can make a real difference in combat. When Bomb the M gets torn apart by a missile, you may actually shed a tear. Now that your crew is all set up, you're ready to jump. Gameplay in FTL involves traveling from waypoints in space, encountering peaceful settlements, traders, space pirates, rebel federations, and, most notoriously, giant alien spiders. Each beacon is a spin of the wheel. You are generally unaware of what awaits at each point. You'll encounter civilians who need assistance, stores selling armaments, and space stations with malfunctioning turret systems. You have some agency in decision-making, with text-based dialogue options, though on early runs you'll mostly be unaware of the risks involved. If you're lucky, you'll see special blue options that appear if you have the correct crew member or piece of equipment. FTL beacons can lead to a variety of possibilities and future outcomes. However, most beacons lead to just one outcome: space combat. Luckily, that's the best part of the game. Combat in FTL is real-time, ship to ship. You power up your weapons and target systems on the enemy ship. Strikes by either side can damage systems, disabling or reducing their capabilities until repaired, as well as reducing the ship's hull points. Each attack has a possibility of rending a hole in the hull, or starting a fire, thus complicating attempts to mitigate damage. When hull health reaches zero, the ship falls to pieces. Each system has a tactical advantage. Take out the pilot and the ship will lose evasiveness. Take out the O2 and the crew will eventually suffocate. Most often you'll be targeting either the weapons or the shields. Hull damage in FTL is repairable only at stores, with the exception of repair drones and special events, so players will be encouraged to take as little damage as possible during a fight. Disabling the enemy weapon system is the best way to do this. In early sectors, most craft have level 1 shields, so overcoming these provides little challenge. In later sectors, more advanced systems mean you may struggle to inflict any damage without first taking the shields down a notch. These are just the basic systems you'll encounter. Other systems provide further strategic complications. Drones can repair your ship, shoot down incoming missiles, and launch automated assaults. Teleporters allow you to board the enemy vessel and take the fight directly to the crew. Cloaking allows you to hide from sight and get the jump on your enemy, and hacking allows you to temporarily disable key enemy systems. The diversity of systems invites exploration and encourages you to adapt your strategy. You might find that your fire a missile at the shields, then burst laser the weapons technique works really well until a defense drone shoots down every missile you fire. Your teleport team might be tearing through every rebel cruiser you encounter until an anti-personnel drone sends them packing. There's a risk-reward approach with the teleporter that I find particularly engaging. If you're able to kill the enemy crew without destroying the ship, you'll acquire more scrap from their vessel. You can also occasionally loot a new weapon, or, if you've defeated a slaver, a new crew member. During the fight, you'll still need to use your weapons to disable their offensive capabilities, or take out their med or cloning bay, otherwise your assault team will struggle to wipe them out. It's an amazing push and pull. You'll have to balance tactical considerations while making sure you don't destroy the enemy ship while your crew is still on board. Environmental effects can also influence combat. Fight too close to the sun and fires will damage your hull and spread from system to system. A nearby iron moon may disable your shields and their weapon bay. Nebulas are an interesting gambit. The electromagnetic distortions they provide will slow down the fleet pursuit. They'll also disable your sensors and sometimes reduce your reactor's power output. You may find yourself in a fight with no choice but to power down the shields or part of your weapons array. You may even decide to cut off life support. Better win that fight quickly. Get caught by the rebel fleet and their cruisers will target you with long-range weapons. Speaking of the rebel fleet, FTL's narrative is a typical space opera, wherein your ship is tasked with delivering secret plans to turn the tide of a war. This time, however, it's the evil rebellion that has upturned the Galactic Federation. Kinda like the Spanish Civil War, in space, and you're racing to save it. In gameplay, this manifests as an ever-present threat. Once you've jumped around a bit in your first sector, you'll notice the rebel fleet in pursuit behind you, taking over beacons and essentially lighting a fire under your ass. This adds another tactical dimension to the game. You'll want to travel to as many beacons as possible, while avoiding being trapped by the fleet. The fleet can be delayed by traveling through foggy nebulas and occasional narrative events, but they can never be permanently stopped. In the early game, you really don't want to run into them, as they will tear through your HP. And even if you do manage to win, you won't be able to loot their ship for scrap afterwards, so there's kind of no point, except extra glory. The story doesn't have much wider implication than the opening premise. You learn a bit more about the rebels and the Federation. You'll sometimes encounter rebels harassing civilians, but also occasionally providing help. Overall, you get the feeling that the Federation are supposed to be the good guys, but the average FTL player doesn't exactly follow the Geneva Convention. I only accept surrender if they offer me a burst laser Mark II, so you're never quite sure which side has the ultimate moral authority. The first few times you play FTL, you're just hopping from beacon to beacon, learning the mechanics and essentially just trying to survive. You'll probably make it a few sectors in before being defeated by some advanced strategy you haven't encountered before. You try again, you learn, and you overcome. You realise that you need to adapt and develop your own strategies to defeat enhanced enemies. Eventually, after many failed runs and much hard work, you'll make it to the final sector, where you will realise that everything has been building towards one final goal: defeating the rebel flagship. This behemoth has 4 advanced weapon systems, stealth cloaking, a diabolical drone system, and a whole lot of health. Even more, you'll fight it in incremental stages, each with their own unique challenges. No spoilers, but for the love of God, don't try and be smart and take out the crew. You'll likely get beaten back by this Leviathan of the Void many times, with each death representing a full reset of progress. This is a roguelike after all. You won't be completely stripped of accomplishment though. You will have gained knowledge and skill from each failed playthrough. Now that you know what you're going up against, you know that every sector is a chance to prepare. This brings me on to my main critique of FTL. Once you realise the purpose of the game is to get strong enough to destroy the flagship, it funnels you into a narrow playstyle. Your travel through sectors must be optimised to hit as many beacons as possible, and to start as many fights as possible. An early FTL player may let a rebel ship delivering supplies to civilians pass unmolested. A seasoned vet needs the scrap. Will also raid the civilian supplies on the off chance there's a few more goodies in there. It's always pretty heartbreaking when it just turns out to be vaccines. In my early runs, I was happy to avoid fights sometimes, jumping when the titular drive reached full capacity. In every playthrough since, I vaporise each ship that dares look at me twice, and I use their smoking carcasses to upgrade my hull. This critique thus transforms into a sort of compliment. Morality systems in games that amount to choice A good, choice B bad are easy to address, and most players uncritically choose the positive outcome. There are no real stakes, no ethical dilemma. In FTL, there isn't a formal morality system. You don't get a rating for all the times you turn your lasers on an unsuspecting mercenary, or refuse the surrender of a pirate ship full of innocent slaves. You've chosen to do this because of your overriding need to accumulate scrap throughout your run. Otherwise, the rebel flagship will just turn you into glass. When the credits roll on a successful run, all you'll see is congratulations. But inside your hollow heart will be all the civilians, Engi, and exploded Zoltans you ran roughshod over to a blood-stained victory. When you finally best the rebel flagship, the game isn't over. In addition to difficulty modes, come on, your first successful run was on easy. There are a whole host of ships to unlock. These ships, and ship variations, are unlocked through different means. Some are awarded to you after your first victory, like the unerringly phallic Federation cruiser. Others are acquired through achievements or, most excitingly, in-game quests. As you journey through various sectors in FTL, you'll occasionally encounter opportunities to engage in quests. These range from straightforward tasks like capturing a ship intact, oh dear, or escorting a civilian vessel, to more specialised missions requiring specific racial attributes or equipment. In the homeworlds of the game's diverse alien races, Mantis, Rock, Engi, Zoltan, you may encounter unique events that, if navigated skillfully, unlock new ships that showcase these races. While it would be ideal to say that all ships in FTL are balanced, the truth is that some are inherently at a disadvantage. Each ship caters to different playstyles, and over time, you'll discern the more effective ones. Let's delve into some notable ships. The Kestrel, the game's quintessential and starting ship, is straightforward with no specific strengths or weaknesses. Equipped with a modest missile launcher and the powerful burst laser Mark II, one of the game's finest weapons, it offers a solid start. Its all-human crew, while unremarkable, is dependable, and sets the stage for a more diverse team as you progress. Among the Kestrel's variants, the Red Tail stands out as my personal favourite. The other one isn't worth mentioning. The Red Tail, armed with 4 basic lasers that can fire simultaneously, excels in early sectors against single-layer shields. You also start off with a diverse crew made up of 2 humans, a Zoltan, and a Mantis, much more like Star Trek. My main advice with the Red Tail would be not to get too comfortable. If by Sector 4 you haven't managed to swap out some of the weapons, you will fall behind. 4 lasers against level 3 shields equals 1 or no damage. Use your early advantage to save some dough and hit up those stores for upgrades. The Taurus is an Engi cruiser you unlock merely by making it to the 5th sector, so it's often the second ship players try. The unusual twist with the Taurus is that you start with no direct weapons, only an iron blaster for disabling shields and an attack drone that fires random shots. This combo can actually deal some damage in the early sectors, the main downside being that you can't directly target the drone, so you'll likely take some damage while the enemy weapon system stays online. Luckily, a mainly Engi crew means that repairs are a doddle. This does however leave you pretty vulnerable to boardings later on in the game, so you want to acquire some Mantis or Rock crew members when you get the chance. This ship doesn't get the best rating from the community, but with a bit of luck, it can become a flagship destroyer along with the best. The Mantis cruiser is one of the few ships that starts with a teleporter. It's unlocked by defeating the legendary thief Kazak Plevkilik, and it can be a tough machine if you can survive the first few sectors. I much prefer its secondary layout, the Gila monster. It starts with no weapons but a 4-man teleporter, allowing you to fling 4 vicious bugs at your enemy and watch them tear through the crew like paper. You will have to acquire those bugs, however. The Gila only starts out with 2 Manti, making early sorties a risky affair. I've been caught on the enemy ship only to find my teleporter taken out by a stray missile, my boarding crew permanently stranded. You do, however, start with level 2 shields and a defense drone, so with a little bit of luck, this ship can be devastating. The Zoltan cruiser, equipped with a halberd beam and a Zoltan shield, makes a strong statement from the start. However, its all Zoltan crew is fragile, and its unique layout complicates the handling of boardings and fires. While I've yet to complete the game with this ship, it remains an enjoyable challenge. I really want to love the Federation cruiser. It's got a great crew, an awesome built-in weapon, and a timeless design. The problem is, it starts off with such a meager weapon selection, you're really praying to the RNG gods for a nice handout. I'm looking forward to finally beating the game with this one, but I'm not going to hold my breath. FTL's variety of ships, each with distinct strengths and weaknesses, contribute significantly to the game's replay value. Unlocking the ships can be challenging, and you'll sometimes be relying on luck to hit the right combinations. In a game like FTL, which is designed for replayability, I don't think this is particularly a bad thing. I think throughout my many playthroughs, I've only visited the Crystal Sector a few times. If I was really determined to unlock this ship on a timeline, I'd probably find that frustrating, but if you're happy to take the leisurely route to unlock all the ships, it works pretty well. Beyond raw game mechanics, one of the things I love most about FTL is its unique art style. Pioneered by co-developer Justin Marr, it's been fascinating to learn how the visual language of the game evolved over time. from more richly detailed textural elements to a minimalist but streamlined aesthetic. Each craft has such a unique and characterful design, befitting the backstory and the lore. This, along with the delightful animations, visceral explosions, the way the hull rends when a craft is destroyed, I just love it. Keep this high praise in mind when I say that the incredible soundtrack adds even more atmosphere than the fantastic visuals. I've heard a lot of video game soundtracks in my day, and even the best can get tedious when repeated ad nauseum. It's no exaggeration then to say that I never once grew tired of hearing Ben Prunty's beautiful synth arpeggios and ambient chiptune melodies. I don't usually listen to video game soundtracks outside the game, but this is one happy exception. The developers were also happy for Ben to keep the rights to the music, which I think is really cool. You can purchase the soundtrack on Bandcamp. Now that I've praised this game endlessly for 20 minutes, let's shift focus to some more critique. Now, the main criticism that I see aimed at FTL is its reliance on RNG. RNG, for the uninitiated, stands for Random Number Generator, and it's an accusation that is often levelled at games that utilise some form of random generation. FTL uses procedural generation for the layout of sectors, beacon placement, and loot distribution, ensuring that these factors vary with each playthrough. Moreover, certain gameplay factors such as attack accuracy, while influenced by player stats, is ultimately determined by invisible dice rolls. I'm not gonna lie, I have found myself occasionally restarting the game after a particularly bad run of luck. Generally, I find the game works better if you persist through difficult sections. Even if you don't succeed, these can often be the most rewarding moments of the game. The developers talk about this during their GDC post-mortem. They acknowledge the critique, but also mention that loot distribution ramps up towards the end of the game, so if you do survive your initial traumas, you may still be able to thrive in later sectors and mount a decent offensive on the flagship. It's clearly a critique that has some resonance, as the next game by Subset Studios, Into the Breach, was built upon a foundation of quote-unquote perfect information. There are still RNG factors, map layout, and enemy formation, but enemy attacks are perfectly signposted and your mechs will never miss an attack. So when things go wrong, you mainly have yourself to blame. This works really well, and I enjoy Into the Breach a lot. I may do a video about the game at some point in the future. But overall, I just don't love it as much as FTL. A lot of this is just due to the smaller scope. In an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun, Justin Marr and Matthew Davis talk about how they had to reduce a lot of complexity for Into the Breach, as perfect information is harder to convey when you have a bunch of complicated, contrasting mechanics. Into the Breach features 4 main islands, while FTL has about 12 sectors, and you encounter a wider variety of unique events and enemy encounters, which for me adds to the novelty. Definitely feels like a more intellectual and strategic game, but I kinda love how the RNG in FTL can lead to a strong variation in the feel of different playthroughs. I enjoy it when everything goes wrong and I struggle through to an untimely demise. I really enjoy it when every roll of the dice goes my way and I mash the Rebel flagship without breaking a sweat. My personal critique of FTL centers on the balance. As I pointed out earlier, certain ships are very easy to get going with, while others require you to struggle for the first few sectors due to their inbuilt inadequacies. When you factor the RNG into the balance problem, it doesn't feel worth it to invest time in these ships, as you may not get the lucky breaks you need to make them competitive. This extends over to the weapons and systems. Ask around in the FTL community and you'll quickly find that 3 weapons stand above the others: Black Cannon, Halberd Beam, and the aforementioned Burst Laser Mark II. The reason these weapons are so great isn't because of some spectacular effects, it's about their efficient power to damage ratio. Burst Laser and Flak both cost 2 power slots and regularly deal out 3 damage, so combine these two, if you're really lucky you wind up with more than one of each, and you can easily overpower any enemy shields and do severe damage to their systems. And before you work this out, you probably end up using loads of different weapons to a mixed effect. Some of them have really cool buffs and stats, like the whole laser does extra damage to systemless rooms, firebomb doesn't cause damage but spreads deadly fires that go from room to room. The swarm missile can duplicate warheads if you leave it to charge multiple times. The problem is, there's no point spending free power on a weapon that most of the time will be deflected by the enemy shields. And weapons that rely on finite resources or have excessive wait times also have their downsides. It's all about overpowering that shield and inflicting damage on key systems, which means shots per charge will always be the dominant strategy. Now, where the RNG factors in a positive way is, it's often difficult to find all the good weapons in one run. So mostly you have to make do with what you've got. You can often find at least one of the Holy Trinity. You'll usually have to supplement it with interesting but less effective weapons. In one of my favourite runs, I acquired a Vulcan Gatling laser, a weapon that starts off slow and ramps up to a near constant rate of fire, enough to overpower any level of shield. The only problem is, you've got to wait for it to get going, and in the meantime the enemy can do whatever they like, including targeting your weapons bay. If they disable it, you'll have to start again. Now, this combo eventually allowed me to battle the flagship successfully. I had to compensate for its slowness with other systems. It was a nail-biting but satisfying experience. Now, I've spoken about FTL at great length, and everything I've discussed is regarding the base game. Fortunately for us, there is a small but significant array of mods on offer. Now, I haven't done a deep dive in any so far, but I've recently downloaded Multiverse, and I'm enjoying the novelty of exploring new sectors and ships. I also think it's pretty cool that this game comes with its own soundtrack, which is pretty damn good. Check it out. I may create another video on Multiverse once I've explored all its outcomes. So to round it off, FTL stands as a testament to strategy, impeccable art design, and narrative cohesion. One of the only games I can think of to contain ludonarrative consonants. Bet you've never heard that one before. Its commitment to difficulty and perfect session length mean I'll probably still be coming back to it in another 12 years' time. If you've never played it before, I highly encourage you to give it a try. And if you have, I imagine you've already booted it up again 20 minutes ago. Thanks for watching. This is the first YouTube video I've ever put together, and I really enjoyed the process. Feel free to like and subscribe, and if I feel like putting myself through this satisfying but laborious process again, I may get to watch another video. Cheers.